Well, welcome, Ben.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for joining us on the Power Probe
Absolute
stand.
pleasure.
We're at Auto Mechanica in Birmingham at the moment.
Yeah.
And just pulled you for a chat to talk about the Maestro, the Power Probe Maestro.
Yeah. I can say a lot about the Maestro. I'd be lost without it. That's the first thing. I think everybody should be using this tool. If you're not using this tool, you're making your life more difficult. Take a lot of examples. I get a lot of jobs where I'll have something where something doesn't work in the trunk area. Well, you need a big cable, 4 meters at least. Well, the Maestro has that. You plug it in on the battery terminal in the engine bay, run it around the back. Let's give an example. For example, I had a Z4 roadster. The roof wouldn't work. Needed to check the relays. No problem. Get the Maestro, plug her in. I made a cracking YouTube video about it. Get under the glove box, 2 relays, pop it on, activate the roof. Negative polarity one way, positive the other. Onto relay number 2, same test. Relay's okay, fuse is okay. To the back of the car to where the hydraulic unit is. Same test again. We have voltage, ground, live, reverse polarity for up and down. 5 minutes with the Maestro. All you can say is we have to take the roof off with a view to changing the pump. Okay, I used a fluke meter then to check the resistance, but pretty much 90% of the job was with the Maestro.
Wow.
5-minute diagnosis. Without that, you'd have to pull a wire off with your teeth, stick it on the battery, mess around. No need to do that with the Maestro. So it's saving me a massive amount of time and hassle, basically.
Fantastic. How long have you had it for?
I've had it over a year now, and I'm using it about, I would say in a week, I'm using it 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes daily, depending on the fault finding. Yeah, mainly using it just to power circuits up. For example, I can use it to test a tow bar. So you get a standard tow bar, it has a control unit. Well, if it doesn't work, what can we do? We can check the wires, we can disconnect the unit, use the power probe to measure each individual pin, park lights, indicators, stop lamp, etc. And basically by doing that, we can then check the wiring from the control unit all the way to the tow bar socket. And we can do the same, we can do the same test. We can put a tow bar tester in with the LED lamps, power it with the Maestro, watch the lamps come on like this, and then you've got no problem with your wiring. 5 minutes, you've tested your tow bar wiring with the Maestro. What would you do without it? You'd have to get individual wires, put a power supply to one pin, look at your LED. It would take an hour to do that. Maestro takes 5 minutes. Again, another example of it. Control units. You want to check you've got a live, you might have 3 live supply in the ground. Get the Maestro, red light, 12 volt, 12 volt, 12 volt, ground, done. 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Would you say that a Maestro is something that everybody should have in their toolkit?
Without a doubt. The old power probe I had 20 years ago is pretty useful, but of course with this, you can even use it as a mini oscilloscope. Resolution's not as good as a Pico, it's not designed for that. But if you want to do something really, really fast, let's say we could look at an electric window encoder on a motor. It's a Hall signal, so it's a square wave digital signal. It'll work like a scope in that sense. So you can put it onto the Hall sensor, and then you can activate it, the window switch, and just keep it on the pulse width modulated part of the power probe, and you can look at the signal. And I have an iPhone, so I can take my iPhone, I can Bluetooth it to the iPhone, I can put that under the bonnet, put the power probe on, get someone to activate the circuit, and I can get a much clearer signal on the iPhone than I would on the actual. And in that sense, you can even save the waveform then. So it's not really designed for that, but it can be used, and it's much faster than setting up the oscilloscope. It can take a long time to set a scope up. So
multifaceted then. So
yeah, it is.
All sorts.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And it's also good, for example, you can look at a motor, you can look at, let's say, an EGR valve, you want to look at the duty cycle. You can just pop this on to the wire and you can physically look at the duty cycle and percentage. You can also look at the actual waveform, graphical representation of that. Don't use that so much, but mainly if you need to use it and you can't afford to spend €2,000 on a scope, it's not as good as a scope, but it could get you started and kind of help you diagnose things. It's quite okay actually in that sense. So it's not designed for that, but it's a surprise that you can use it for that, and I have done that.
Just shows that it's a multifunctional tool. It can do not just what it says on the box, but other things as well, which is...
Yeah, and the main thing for me, which really helps in my job, is if you get these like big 5 series estates, they're like, 4.8 meters long. Well, you've got enough cable length on that. So you can get almost anywhere on the car, and you can measure anything you want to measure without stressing about if you don't have that, you're going to have to get 4 meters of wire, put some terminals on, crocodile clips, put it on battery, and it's dangerous because you've got no fuse there. Whereas this, and I've tripped this so many times and it hasn't blown it up. So it's got a really, really good circuit breaker in this.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's actually, some tools in the past, I don't think they'd be so durable, but I've overloaded it so many times it's never blown up on me.
Which is always a positive.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So it's
That's the last thing we need.
Exactly, yeah. I've hammered that tool now for a year. I've probably worked on hundreds of cars. It's never let me down once, really. Yeah, I'd be lost without it, really, and looking forward to trying more power probe tools, really, to be honest with you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.